Hello.
Oh, maybe that was mine. Oh,
No, I just once it hits 9, there's still people rolling in, so I won't get to the major stuff. I'm just gonna start quick with hi, my name's Allie. I am also a part of Athletes Mindset Academy. Stacy and Amy and I all own it together, and I actually live in Michigan. So I'm across the state over in Grand Haven, and I coach at Champion Gymnastics in Holland. So I'm sure you guys have competed against them, and some of you know Coach Tammy probably. Coach Tammy was also my coach growing up. I did level 10 gymnastics and then did some college gymnastics. And then I coached college gymnastics. And Coach Amy, who you had at week 1, she helped our college team. And that's how I got started with all this. So it's just kind of fun. I'm really excited to be here with you all. And at any point in time, if you have any questions or anything to say, just unmute quick and holler at me. Because, yes, Amina?
No, I was just doing something else.
Oh, I saw an arm go up. I was ready. Not all of you are on one page for me, so some of you might need to unmute and just holler at me if you need something, okay? All right. So we're going to get started. I like to start a little bit with a review. I'm actually going to share my page, share screen, because I like to fill out a CTFAR like you guys learned in practice today watching the video with you all here so you can kind of see what's going on. All right, can everyone see my page? Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay, so feel free to just unmute and answer my questions. We're going to do a quick review and then we're going to go through and apply it. So first, what does C stand for?
Circumstance.
Circumstance. Amazing. All right, somebody else, what is a circumstance? Anybody want to unmute?
Like a fact or something that we all know and believe.
Yes, fact. Oops, I unclicked from there. Fact, something we all know and believe. And I like to say, like, everybody in the world would agree. And maybe it could be proven in the court of law. Right? All right, that's what I have for circumstance. Anything else you want to add? No, it looks pretty good. All right, T stands for somebody else.
Thought.
Thoughts.
Amazing. It is not wanting to type. There we go. Okay, thoughts. What's a thought?
Something that goes through your brain.
Yes, something going through your brain. Anybody else want to add?
Like it's something that not necessarily a fact to everyone else, but something that's making you feel like nervous or excited or
So
something.
it creates feelings.
Yeah.
Love that. Not everybody would agree, you said?
Yeah.
Love that. So that kind of makes it an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to add one more, a judgment. Right? Saying something's good or bad can be an opinion or a judgment. Those are all great things.
and someone wrote an idea.
An idea. Oh, thank you for doing the When I'm screen sharing, I can't always see all of that. An idea is a great one. Let me pull up the notes and make sure I have, oh yeah, there's my chat box. Perfect. That's a great way to fill things out too. Chat box. Thank you. Okay. F, what does the F stand for?
Feelings.
Feelings. That's our favorite thing here in Athletes Mindset Academy is feelings. They're amazing. So a feeling, if you were to describe a feeling to somebody, how would you describe it?
Like in a reaction to like a thought.
Yeah, it's how your body reacts to a thought. So this can be like a release of hormones and endorphins. Okay, so that's just like your body basically sending a vibration and sending signals, right, from your brain to the rest of your body. And that's what the feeling is. Okay, so this is the new stuff. That's all review. And so the last question I have is, where do your feelings come from?
Your brain.
Yeah, your brain, which is who's waving their hand over there? Someone's waving their hand. Just unmute and shout it out.
Your thoughts.
Your thoughts, ding, 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 right? Your feelings never, ever come from the circumstance because the circumstance is completely neutral. It doesn't mean anything at all until you have a thought about it. And then your thought about it is going to be an opinion or it's going to be a judgment, an idea. And that thought is actually going to send those signals and create a feeling. Okay. And we know that's true because if everybody if a circumstance did that, then everybody in the world would have the same feelings from all circumstances. And we know that that's not the case, right? Somebody doing a back handspring on high beam would be freaking out. Somebody would be like, that's no big deal. Somebody else would think that's just a warm up. So that's going to create all different feelings, right? Neutral, excited, fear. So if our feelings came from our circumstances, then everybody in the world would feel the exact same. All of you would be just as afraid of spiders as I am. But that's not the case. Okay. So it comes from our thoughts. Our thoughts about it is what's creating the feeling. And then our feelings are going to be what gives us energy or takes away energy. And we do what does the A stand for?
Actions.
Actions. Okay, so for actions, this is going to be, we're either going to do something, we're going to not do something, or it's going to be something going on in our brain. So let's think about some examples of things that you do out of a feeling. Do you need me to be more specific? So like, let's say I'm feeling nervous. What are some actions that you do when you're feeling nervous? I'll give one example. I would rush in my skills. Like an action I would take is I would rush.
Overthink.
Overthink. So your brain's kind of on go mode and it doesn't stop. Yeah. So what was that? Can you repeat that?
Slouch.
Slouch. Yeah. Kind of get like a little down, a little slouchy. Yeah. Cry.
You don't do anything at all.
Yeah, that would be not doing something, right? Sometimes you don't do something or you avoid a station. Like if you ever have like a bunch of stations set up at bars, but you really don't like dismounts, you go to all the stations, but the bar station or the dismount station, right? So sometimes you just like skip a station. I know none of you do that. Right? So that'll happen.
You could
Or someone said blank out and avoid the skill
Yeah.
in the
Avoid
chat.
skill, blank out. Thanks for keeping me on task on those chat areas. Keeps getting hidden on me. Yeah. And then sometimes it's also how we show up with our teammates. So sometimes we kind of shut down rather than being like talking and cheering and doing all that. So we start like shutting down and like isolating ourselves or moving away from our teammates, or sometimes when a coach is talking to us, they'll give you feedback or a correction and you'll hear it, but it'll be like really hard for you to apply it because all you're thinking about is how you just got to go and you hope that you don't get hurt on the skill or die on the skill or whatever is going on in your brain. So that'll happen too. So sometimes it's hard for us to focus on what's happening or being open to feedback. Okay, any questions about that? So actions is the only place where you're going to have a lot of stuff written. So sometimes for thought, you're supposed to have one thought, right? For feeling, you're going to have one feeling. But when you get to actions, you're going to do and not do a lot of things. So sometimes you just fill that whole space up. And then anything that you do and don't do is going to actually create what? What is the R?
A result.
Result. Great. Okay, so results are going to be directly connected to your thought, okay? Because your thought creates your feelings. You take actions out of your feelings, and then what you do and what you don't do is what creates your result, right? So like if your thought is, I can't do this skill, and you're feeling discouraged, and when you feel discouraged, you take less turns, you're unfocused on your turns, maybe you don't do extra drills to help you. Your result ends up being you actually can't do it, right? Because you haven't worked on the things that you need to in order to get the skill. Does that make sense? Okay, another way that this could work, one more example of this is sometimes with like a relationship, like a friendship, a coach, anything, okay, one person to another person. Let's say I'm mad at this person, okay? So my thought is I'm mad at this person. And then my feeling is annoyed. And when I'm annoyed, maybe I ignore them or I kind of cold shoulder, like I don't talk to them as much. And I act in a way where I end up being mad at myself because I wasn't really being that nice. So sometimes it's kind of an opposite. So instead of my thought is I'm mad at them, and it ends up being I'm mad at myself. So it can be a direct reflection of I can't do this skill and you actually can't do it in the end. Or it could be a reflection of how you're feeling about someone else. You end up feeling that way about yourself. And the last one is you don't even give yourself an opportunity. That would be like balking. So like if you stand on the beam and you never do the back handspring, then you never even give yourself a chance to prove or disprove the thought. So the result is I didn't give myself the opportunity.
And someone wrote, you might be mean to them too.
Yes, 100%. It ends up when you are having those, if you're feeling angry or annoyed, sometimes when you take action out of those, have you ever said something that you don't mean, maybe to a sibling when you get mad at them or frustrated at them and you say something that's not very nice to them? Has anybody done that? Yeah. And then after you do that, do you feel bad and you're frustrated with yourself for saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That was a really great example. And so that's how that works. Okay. So now that we understand what this all means, we are going to go through, and I would love to coach somebody on this. So do we have a volunteer of somebody that would like to get coached today? How about write in the chat, me? If you want to get coached, write me in the chat. Anybody? I'm going to pick on someone.
Come on, guys. There we
Me,
go.
Amina, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Amina.
Yeah.
Amina.
Amina, oh, we got a bunch. Okay, you got a bunch of people.
Well, perfect. If we have time for more than one, we will do it. I'm going to help you create a model. You guys, this part's super important because this is just what's happening in your brain and you can understand what's happening. And then next week's way more fun. I'm not going to lie, because next week you get to learn how to create a new one that you actually like and want, one that's helpful for you. But you have to learn how to understand what's happening in your brain before you can move to a new one. Okay, so we got to get really good at this. So Amina, what is your circumstance that you are working on?
Like a circumstance could be like a skill that I'm working on.
Yes.
Okay. A Yurchenko full.
You made me spell one that's hard to spell. I think I got it. Okay, your Tangle full. Okay, on vault, are we going? You can stay unmuted. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing that into the pit? Are you trying to add a mat? Are you doing it to a resi? Like, where are we doing this?
I've been doing it on the mat,
Okay,
like on a mat on the pit.
and can you tell me what's going on with it?
Well, I mean, they're good. They're like consistent, but I just keep getting the same corrections, and
Okay.
it's frustrating because well, it's not that I can't fix. Well, it feels like I can't fix them, and it's frustrating.
So when you think, if you're doing your Yurchenko full onto the mat in the pit,
Yeah.
your thought is it feels like I can't fix them.
Yeah.
And you feel what when you think that?
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Okay, how many of you, when you think that you can't fix something, feel frustrated? Yeah, 100%. I just like to do that because I want you to know it's completely valid that you feel frustrated because you feel like that you don't know how to fix it, right?
Yeah.
We all feel frustrated or annoyed, or we might have a little bit different emotion, but in general, it's really normal and common to feel frustrated. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you, Amina, and then I'm going to ask some other people to chime in. I want
Yeah.
everybody else, while you're here for a minute, I want you to think about a skill that you are trying to make a correction on that you feel like you cannot make the correction and you're feeling frustrated about it. Like you're trying to make a change and the change just is not happening. Can everybody think of a skill that they have that going on with? Yeah, thumbs up. Has everybody got an idea of what they're thinking about? Okay. So Amina, I want you to give me one action you take
Mhm.
on your vault when you're feeling frustrated.
Maybe mess up my steps or not land it.
Okay, so let's start with mess up your steps. Like, are we running faster? Are we running harder? Are we are we not thinking about what we're doing? What's going on there?
Probably not really thinking about doing it because you're distracted when you're thinking, because your mind is kind of veering off. So it's like distracting. So you're not really thinking about it.
So
as
you're
much.
distracted.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about, what are you thinking about? Other things? Or are you thinking about like what the result that you're trying to get from the vault? What are you thinking
Like
about?
the result that I'm trying to get from it.
Yeah. Okay. So I put result focus. This is a really common one. So
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, I just want to catch the bar on a Tkachev. Let's say we're doing a Tkachev. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to catch the bar. And all they're thinking about is catching the bar. And they
Mhm.
forget to think about all the things that make the Tkachev good. Starting from a good cast handstand, maybe getting our toes down, the tap, the shoulders open, and the things that actually make your skill good. When we stop focusing on that and only focus on the result, then yeah, that's exactly what tends to happen. Great example. Okay, I'm going to have some others chime in talking about the skill that you are frustrated about, or you feel like you can't fix something on. I'd like for some of you to share some of your actions that you take, or maybe things that you don't do when you're feeling frustrated. You can write in the chat, I have it open, or you can unmute and shout it out. Actions you take when you're frustrated.
When I'm frustrated about front tosses, I don't think about the correction I was given. I just kind of try and go as hard as possible instead of focusing on like form, things like that.
Yeah, just go attitude. People do that on connections a lot too, when they're trying to connect two things in a row. Just go, you just gotta go, right? Rather than like, what's gonna set you up to do a good one. Perfect. Stall. So like you avoid going on the equipment. Is that what we mean by that? Okay. Avoid taking turns. Perfectly normal. Sometimes this means hanging out in the chalk bin. Sometimes this means taking extra bathroom breaks, right? There's always those little things that we can do. Okay, what about, I want to hear a little bit about what's going on in your mind. Are you being nice to yourself during this? Are you being kind of mean to yourself during this? Like, how are you talking to yourself?
I feel like
You're good.
I feel like usually like mean too. Like I hold the expectations kind of high for myself.
Yeah, so you kind of like don't let any little things go.
Yeah.
So avoid taking turns. People are mean. And a lot of times the being mean, I see a lot of hard on myself, mean to myself. That's really common. We get into this, like when stuff isn't going the way that we want it to be going, and we think it should be going a different way, we start like telling ourselves that we can't do it and we're not good enough, and like all sorts of stuff that's just not very nice. All the things that you wouldn't tell your best friend. Right? You start kind of like, if you think about all the things that you say to yourself when you're feeling frustrated, think, would I tell my best friend this? Yeah, I'm not good at the skill. You never look at your friend and be like, you're not good at that. You're never going to make this. Right? But for some reason, we think that it's okay to tell ourselves that, but that's kind of just what's happening out of the frustration. Okay, so let's talk. Are we being open or closed to corrections? So that means, like, are you allowing yourself to take corrections and to think about them, or are people telling you like corrections and things to do and you're just like so turned off by it where you're like, I can't even think about that, I just need to go, and I'm so mad, I can't believe why I'm not going or making the change? So open or closed? Sometimes both, for sure. So when both is going on, that was a great thing to say. When both is going on, usually it's coming from two different thoughts. You might have one thought of like, I can't do this, and you're feeling frustrated and you're kind of shutting down. And you might have another thought of like, but I really want to. And that's going to create like this motivation and this opportunity for you to start listening. So usually when you have contradicting things where you're like, oh, I kind of do both and I'm not sure, usually the actions are coming from two different models, because this model is just coming from one thought that's creating one feeling, but it's possible that you're having another thought and another feeling in a different model. Does that make sense? So most of the time, this isn't the only thing you're thinking and the only thing that's going on, right? You might have other things going on where you're like, but I'm trying to tell myself I can do it, but I'm trying to be positive, right? And so that doesn't mean that's not happening. That just means that your brain is currently believing the thought that's making you feel frustrated. That's the one it's believing and attached to. So great. With the both, that's kind of what's going on. You got two models going on. So I heard sometimes both. I'll just put closed. I like both, but okay, is there anything else you can think of that you're doing or not doing that we haven't talked about? Okay, so then if you're distracted, focused on the result, have a just go attitude, avoid taking turns, are being really mean and hard on yourself, and are closed-minded, do you think that you're going to make a correction? Yeah, how many of you would actually make a change if you were doing all of these things? Probably not very many of you. So the result is you can't fix them. Right? So this thought is directly leading to this result. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions? Now, this doesn't mean she's walking into the gym that day and saying, you know what? I'm not going to make any corrections on vault today. That's not like her game plan. She has a thought that she's super attached to that is making her feel frustrated. And when she acts out of the feeling of frustration, these are the things she does, which does not help her fix them, which leads to her not making any changes. Okay, so what now? The main thing that you learned with Coach Stacy, sorry, I went a little crazy there. The main thing that you learned with Coach Stacy was about feelings, right? And you learned how to process a feeling. So really what we teach you is to, one, notice what's going on in your brain. This is our unintentional model, which means it's just happening without you trying. You don't mean it, but that's what your brain is doing because it thinks it's saving your life and protecting you and saving energy, right? Like this is what your brain thinks is like what it wants. So when this happens, you could get to frustrated, process the emotion, and not act out of it. Okay. So once you understand what's going on in your brain, you get to decide, is this the result that I actually want? If not, then you could choose to process that feeling of frustration. Do you guys remember how to process an emotion? Has anybody tried processing an emotion since your last call?
And you review that?
Yes. Okay. So processing the emotion was the now, where you're going to start by just recognizing the emotion. And you close your eyes and you locate where you're feeling that emotion in your body. So let's do frustrated together. Everybody close your eyes. Put yourself in a situation where you're feeling frustrated. Maybe it feels like you can't fix something. Maybe it feels like you're not good enough to do something and you're feeling frustrated. I want you to scan your body and decide where you feel that emotion in your body. For me, it's like my upper right chest. And then how does it feel? Is it really intense? Is it kind of soft? Is it like pulsing? Is it steady? What does that emotion feel like for you? And then just be there with that emotion and allow it and breathe through it and be okay with it being there for as long as it needs. And for the sake of time, I'm going to have you open your eyes. But sometimes just doing that is going to allow the feeling to kind of shift and relax out of you pretty quick. Sometimes you need to practice a little longer to allow it to move through your body. But the more you practice it, the easier it's going to be. When you're standing up beam, and if you've practiced it before, maybe you're like, oh, I feel that. That's frustration. I know that when I'm feeling frustrated, I'm focused on results and I'm distracted and I don't get the results that I want. So I'm going to understand that it's there and allow it to be there, because usually it's just there because of your thought, right? Or always it's because of your thought. So when you can just allow it to be there, then you can choose what to do next. And what you're going to learn next week is how to shift from this model to a model that's going to serve you, to one that's actually going to help you. Okay, so when we do that, we can kind of do a quick one here. We have a couple of minutes. So what is the result that you actually want? I'm going to fast forward this, but what correction are you trying to make? You're still muted. What correction are you trying to make? There we go. That's okay, Amina. Sorry. Your name wasn't showing up.
To put my head in on the roundoff and turn it over more.
To
Over my roundoff.
to turn your hand on the roundoff?
To turn over, like turn my feet
Turn
on-
over my roundoff.
Yeah.
Okay, what are all the things that you need to do in order to actually turn over your roundoff?
Like all the things that I need to do, like in order.
Let's
Like,
start
get a good-
physically. Let's start physically. Physically, what helps you turn over your roundoff?
to get a good hurdle and like, because usually when I hurdle, I straighten my leg instead of bending it and pushing off the back leg. So to bend my leg in my hurdle and push off my back leg more.
Okay. What else?
And
Try and get like 3 to 5 things that you could do to help you turn over your roundoff.
and put my head in. And one more. I'm not sure.
Push up your hands, get your chest up, squeeze your butt, kick your back leg.
Probably like get my chest up.
Perfect. There's lots of options, right? Turning over a roundoff. It could come from hand placement. It can come from all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
There's not really a wrong answer unless you said something like slow it down. But
Yeah.
okay, so get your chest up. And then what about, I'm actually going to speed this up because we're about at time. So mentally, we're probably going to be nicer to ourselves, like understanding. It doesn't have to be like, you got this, but I mean being nice as in being like, okay, I'm learning how to do this. This is trial and error. I'm an amazing human being no matter what happens. Like just being like, what would you say to your best friend, right? Like talking to yourself like you talk to your best friend. That's what I consider being nice in our minds. Being open to coaches, right?
Yeah.
And focused on what you're doing in the moment, right? Because we talked about how a lot of you guys, a lot of gymnasts are focused on the result or the just go attitude. But if you're focused in the moment on that one thing that you need to do, then that's what's going to help you get there. Okay. So in order to do all these things, how do you think that you need to feel, Amina?
Like focused in order to do all those things, and also maybe like well, you also have to be like as you just like typed, like open-minded.
Yeah, open-minded is a great feeling. I'm going to put some other options here now, right? We have focused, open-minded, encouraged maybe.
Yeah, like determined, motivated.
Yeah, brave can be one. Sometimes just discomfort. Making a change can be uncomfortable, right? It doesn't mean it's a super fun feeling, but maybe you need to feel a little bit of discomfort in order to make this change and be okay with it. Okay. Hopeful.
Yeah.
Possible. Okay. You're only going to pick one when you guys do this. I just like to show you some options because most likely you're not going to be amped up. You're not going to be stoked yet. Especially if you're dealing with a fear or a frustration. Usually you don't go from frustrated to excited. You have to go from like frustrated to open-minded or possible or brave or encouraged, like something that's going to be in between that, that's like believable for you. And then finding that thought that's going to help you get there. Okay. And so that's really, you're going to work a lot on that next week because the main reason, like I said, that this transfer doesn't happen is if one, we're pretending like the frustrated emotion doesn't exist and we don't process it and we try to avoid it and push it away, then it just gets bigger and bigger, right? That's what you learned. And two, if we try and use a thought that we don't believe, if the thought's not working, it means you don't believe it. Because if I said, I've got this and I don't believe it, I'm going to tell myself all the reasons why I don't got this. Or if I say, high beam's just like the low beam and I don't believe it, my brain's going to be like, actually, it's not the same because it's 4 feet higher. So then I might actually split the beam now. And if I do that, it's going to hurt way more than if I'm on the low beam. Does anybody's brain do that? Yeah, absolutely. That's because you're trying to tell yourself something that you don't believe. And so then your brain doesn't get on board and it brings you back to this model that's not helpful. So next week is all about how do we get you to this new model? And you can't get there until you understand the first model and you're okay with it being there. And that's why we spend a whole week on this. So I encourage you to spend the whole week practicing understanding what's going on in your brain so that you can get to this next one and you'll get some really good ideas of different thoughts that'll help you move to this next one. But I want you to stay in this first one first, this one that we talked about today, the one that's unintentionally happening, so that you can practice doing it and understanding it so that you can move to the next one. Okay, I am over time per usual. I'm chatty. Does anybody have any questions before we get off?
You can put them in the chat too, guys.
I've been doing that. It's really helpful. I'd love to hear that. It's like a ball in my throat. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing what your emotion felt like. Yeah. Keep practicing feeling those emotions. Keep practicing your models so you understand if feelings are helpful for what feelings are helpful for you and which feelings maybe are not as helpful. There's not good and bad emotions. There's ones that are helpful for your gymnastics and ones that aren't as helpful. And we just have to learn which ones we want to be using. Okay.
Thank you, Allie.
You're welcome. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much, Amina, for volunteering. I appreciate it. And I think me and Coach Amy are going to be here next week. So
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.